All right, today we are diving into a huge challenge that pretty much every modern company is facing: data management at scale. We all get told that data is the new oil, that it's king, but as it all piles up, it can turn into a total unmanageable mess. So how do we stop our data architecture from basically collapsing under its own weight? Let's get into it.
We're constantly told we live in a data-driven world. But for a lot of people, all that data feels less like a treasure trove and more like, well, a tidal wave that's about to drown everything. It's just overwhelming.
And there's a really good reason for this obsession. Being data-driven gives you a massive competitive advantage. It's about shifting from making decisions based on a gut feeling to making them based on cold, hard facts. This lets companies predict trends, personalize experiences for customers, and ultimately just get way ahead of the competition. The potential upside is absolutely enormous.
But, of course, there's a catch. As you're gathering more and more data from all these different sources, what happens when the system you built so carefully turns into what engineers have a great name for: a big ball of mud?
And this right here, this is the perfect picture of that problem. A big ball of mud is a system that's just so tangled and interconnected that everything depends on everything. So when you try to change one tiny little thing, you have no idea what else might break. You risk these unpredictable, cascading failures all over the place. And that kind of chaos, it just grinds innovation to a halt.
So how in the world did we get into this mess? To understand that, we need to look at the traditional, centralized way of doing things and figure out why it's breaking down.
For decades, the guiding philosophy was actually pretty simple. Get all of your data and put it in one central location. That was the goal, to create a single, unified place for the entire organization, what everyone called a single source of truth.
Now, this philosophy really led to two main types of architecture. First, you had the Enterprise Data Warehouse, or EDW. This was a single spot for really stable, structured data, but it was super complex and very slow to change. Then, a bit later, came the data lake. This was designed for raw, unstructured data. It was more flexible, for sure, but it often just turned into a messy, disorganized data swamp. But here's the key thing. Both of these models, the warehouse and the lake, share the exact same fundamental flaw. They create a monolithic, central bottleneck.
And you can really see that bottleneck right here. Over on the left, you've got all the people and systems that provide data. On the right, you've got everyone who needs to consume that data. And who's squeezed right in the middle? A single central engineering team, managing one single platform. Every single request, every change, every new data source has to go through this one team, and they just inevitably get completely overwhelmed.
In a simpler world, maybe this centralized model was good enough. But today, there are these powerful new trends that are putting so much pressure on these old systems that they're just starting to crack. Let's break down the four big ones. First, you've got the rise of AI and advanced analytics. This is creating a huge variety of new data needs that nobody anticipated. Second, we're delivering software way faster now, with things like DevOps and microservices. That means applications are always changing, which splinters the data into smaller and smaller pieces. Third, the cloud has made it ridiculously easy to copy and move data all over the place, which fragments the whole landscape even more. And finally, you've got growing demands for privacy and security, and these old centralized systems just can't keep up.
Okay, so if centralization is the core of the problem, what's the solution? Well, it's not just some new piece of technology. It's a huge philosophical shift away from centralization and toward a decentralized approach.
Think about the old centralized model like this. Imagine a single, massive library for an entire country. Every single book from every town has to be processed and checked out by one totally overworked librarian. Yeah, it's orderly, but it's painfully slow and just doesn't scale. Now compare that to the new decentralized model. This is more like a network of specialized neighborhood libraries. The science library is run by actual scientists. The history library is run by historians. Each team is an expert in their own area, and they manage their own data, making it available to everyone else. It's a federated system, and it's built on expertise.
And, this isn't just a fun idea. As Pete Haynes Strangholtz, the author of our source material, puts it so well, this isn't a choice. When you look at all those forces of disruption we just talked about, decentralization is simply the inevitable future of data at scale.
So this new philosophy, this new way of thinking, actually has a name and a framework that goes with it. It's called the data mesh.
So what exactly is a data mesh? Well, it's a socio-technical approach, which is just a fancy way of saying it's about people and processes just as much as it's about technology. It's really built on 3 core ideas. First, domain ownership. The teams who know the data best are the ones responsible for it. Boom, that gets rid of the central bottleneck. Second, data as a product. Data isn't just some exhaust fume from an application, it's a high-quality product designed to be easily used by other people. That ensures it's actually valuable. And third, a self-service data platform. This provides all the tools and infrastructure to empower the teams to build and share their data products without a fuss.
So let's zoom out. What's the really big takeaway from all of this? Because it's about so much more than just a new way to connect databases.
The most crucial point to get is this. Shifting to a model like a data mesh isn't just another IT project. It is a fundamental transformation of your company's entire culture. It's all about empowering teams, shifting who owns what, and completely changing how your business thinks about and works with data, from top to bottom.
Ultimately, what we're seeing is a move away from that old ideal of a single source of truth. The future isn't one big central database, it's a collaborative, dynamic ecosystem of data products, all owned and managed by the people who know them best.
And that leaves us with one final question for you to think about. As this shift from centralization to decentralization picks up speed, how is it going to reshape your world, your team, and your industry? Thanks for joining us.